I guess you're about to find out.
I'm about to find out. Let's find out.
So, you cool to just hop right into it? All right, then.
I think this look good on camera. If it doesn't, sorry, that's my favorite.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ayoo podcast. You already know the vibes. June in Jersey. Today, I got a guest that was a little bit unexpected for me, but it's cool how, networking just happens and you meet people. And here is the mentor that we talked about on Mike's podcast, Colony Media Collective. And my friend, if you want to just take a couple seconds, minutes, and let the people know who you are.
I've heard it said that blessed are the brief, for they will be invited back. So here we go. Without further ado, my name is Sean Conlon. I am from San Jose, California originally. Grew up in West Milford, New Jersey, up in the woods. And I just liked to shoot videos in high school. It's funny, to this day, my dad will be like, hey, I saw your website. It looks good, but why don't you have any of the videos from high school? And I'm like, those are so bad. We did a video where I made up this character called Nate Harvin, and I put a bunch of fireworks on my bike and tried to jump over Greenwood Lake, which is a huge lake in the middle of winter, and almost made it, missed it by like 99%. But that was kind of the start of it. And I realized, like, at that point in my life, all my stuff was really bad because I wasn't like actually shooting it. I was always in it. So that changed as I progressed. I worked with my uncle. I flunked college. I failed college math 3 times at 2 different colleges. It was not good. And so I started working in the industry. I worked with my uncle for NCAA back in 2010 after I flunked out of college. From there, did some internships, and here I am. I own a creative agency called Ferrum Creative / also Ferrum Films. My DBA is Ferrum Creative because trying to dive more into the creative realm of things. I was totally projecting and looking at camera,
Mm-hmm. No,
but
I'm
looking at you now.
Good.
We're having a conversation. Mm-hmm. All 3 of us, all of you, him. So this is where I'm at now. I love what I do. Married. I just had a kid, April 20th.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. His name is Matthew. He's the best. My wife's name is Jamie. She's also the best. And I mean, that if I lost everything tomorrow, I have those 2 and they're the best. So yeah.
Beautiful introduction.
That's me.
We're gonna dive into a whole bunch of things that you just said, man. And kind of just like take it in almost chronological order. But if we hop around, we hop around. It is what it is.
Yeah, let's hop.
You know what's crazy? The guy who I just filmed here before, who's my friend Matt Philippek, shout out him. He actually is from West Milford as well.
Matt Philippek. What? I don't know that name.
Yeah. He's actually he's from West Milford. He loves it out there, and we're actually just talking about. Usually, what I have people do is describe West Milford, and I think as a film guy, as a creative, I mean, like, can you go ahead and describe the scenery of West Milford for me, please?
Have you ever seen the movie Waterboy?
Yes.
So that farmer. That's how I feel like I sound to everyone I talk to. Yeah, like that kind of guy. I grew up in West Milford, and we saw bear every day, bald eagles, opossums, coyotes, foxes, whatever, you name it. And so I live in Montclair now, and we had these neighbors. They came and they moved, and they mentioned, they had a raccoon, and I'm just like, I got a trap. Don't worry, I'm going to catch him. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to catch him and relocate him, And they're like, what are you going to use? I'm like, marshmallows. They're like, marshmallows? I'm like, yeah, raccoons love marshmallows. They're like, how'd you know that? I was like, it's been doing this for a while. So yeah, I mean, West Milford, but in all seriousness, it's not that hick. West Milford's beautiful. It was a great place to grow up. I know that it's got a lack of things to do for kids outside of like getting drunk and or high in the woods. But I had really great memories growing up there with my family. I'm one of 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I grew up one of 5 boys and then 1 sister.
Oh, wow. Great.
And Yeah, it was a great place to grow up and be a kid. And we rode our bikes. We went into the woods. We played. We encountered bears. I mean, there was times where me and my brothers were literally just like a bear walked up to us and we just like grabbed sticks and look big and be like, go away, bear. And it wasn't a thing, like it was, our parents trusted us. They obviously had some rules, but like we would go out for hours and we wouldn't come home till the sun went down. And that was just kind of life. And it was great. There's also all the folklore. There's Clinton Road.
Yeah, of course.
There's, the Ramapo Mountain people. There's all sorts of folklore up there. And it's fun because me and my friends over the years, when we were in high school, we would wait in like a car in like a little area and wait for like a car full of, when it's city kids because they have their windows open. They're all like talking really loud. And so we'd like roll out and creep behind them and like flash the lights really big. They'd scream and then we'd turn them off and just like drift back. And that was fun. We loved doing stuff like that. There's also, Action Park, which was up there. There's Jungle Habitat, which was up there. My dad worked at Jungle Habitat. My dad grew up in West Milford.
Oh.
So my dad used to be one of the guys that tended the elephants. And he lived in the neighborhood behind Jungle Habitat. And like they would hear like the animals at night. I think his neighbor's dog brought home like a dead monkey once. Like, because the animals would get loose all the time.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So West Milford is kind of like one of those places that a lot of people know about, but like not a lot of people know about.
Yeah, because you could go like urban like like hunting or like see like the old like broken down places. I know like there was the famous I think it was the one in West Milford, the shark that was in the tank still after all the time. I'm not sure if that was in West Milford, but I remember they were talking about because like that was like the abandoned zoo place, right? Because that was on Weird NJ.
Yeah. Weird. And there's also Cross Castle, which have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Apparently, there's a podcast that just put out a series about it. In the 1800s or early 1900s, a guy named Richard Cross, who was an English financier, built this castle. And then what happened next is kind of shrouded in like mystery. But like basically he died and then they think like it was haunted and like he killed his entire family in the house as well. And it burnt down. And up until the Newark watershed bought the property in the 1970s or 1980s, there was like satanic worshiping happening up there and like all sorts of crazy stuff, apparently, allegedly. So,
I mean, if there's any place for it to happen,
West Milford.
it's out there.
So, funny enough, my wife and I were on an anniversary our honeymoon in British Columbia, and we did a ghost tour in Victoria, Vancouver Island. And the guy who was doing the tour, when I told him I was from West Milford, he was like, "You ever been to Clinton Road?" And I'm like, "How'd you know about that?" He goes, "Dude, everyone in this community knows about Clinton Road." I'm like, but they've never been for themselves, so they don't know. We camp on it. I've seen porcupine. We've never encountered anything weird. So
yeah, I actually, it's funny enough. I actually go on Clinton Road with my friend when we're like, just wanting to have like deep conversations, and we'll kind of just drive back and forth on it because it's a nice drive.
Beautiful.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you go all the way down from West Milford, you'll end up in what's it called?
Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge,
which is technically part of West Milford as well. I think it's like West Milford Township. Those kids would go to Paradise Knoll grade school, and they'd still go to West Milford High School. So yeah.
And even if you drive a little bit past that, you end up in Warwick, right?
Yeah, Warwick's beautiful.
And Warwick's is great, and it still has the drive-in movie theater. That's one of the oldest ones like around. I think there's only two, at least near us on the East Coast, Jersey, New York. I think there's one down south, like South Jersey, and I think it's by some beach. I forget which town it is.
I know what you're talking about. I've actually driven past it, and I'm like, another drive-through.
Yeah, it's great.
Warwick's got Belleville Creamery. Next time you go, it's a great ice cream spot.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
They got number 2 on TripAdvisor in North America.
Oh, so sick.
It's like right on the Appalachian Trail, and people that do the trail will go there for ice cream. It's like a big destination spot. So,
oh snap! I definitely have to go then.
Yeah, it's dope.
So you had mentioned before that you grew up in West Milford, but you were born in San Jose, California.
Yeah, there's not too much about the story. So, I did a DNA test last year, and I found out a little more about myself. But I always knew that I was part Mexican from my mom's side, and so my mom was from California. My dad went out there, met her. They moved back to Jersey. They had 3 kids out there. My 3 older siblings moved back to Jersey, and I think my mom went out there to settle affairs or take care of my grandfather because he was passing away. She couldn't travel, so she had me out there, and I lived out there for a little bit. but that's as much as the story goes. I mean, we still have close family out there, and we still visit, and they're great. And we would love. I mean, my wife and I would love to go out there and introduce our son to our family and stuff like that. But that's pretty much as the story goes. But it was always cool because my dad's family is, they're pretty culturally white, and we grew up in a town with a lot of, culturally white kind of town. But, and so I always felt like that really great connection to my like Latin roots. My mom, ay, mijo, called me Gavasson, which means big head.
Yeah.
And just like the way we ate, the things we did, the traditions, et cetera, it's just like, I think we grew up kind of culturally Latino, which is great, which was awesome. Mexican, I would say. And that was always something we held on to, and to this day, we really cherish that part of our heritage. And so I definitely want to teach my son Spanish, even though all I can say is like tortilla correctly. And I'll like order food at a Mexican restaurant and they'll be like, and they'll start talking to me. I'm like, un poco. I'm a failure in that aspect, but I would like to learn myself, and I would like to learn and teach my son, because I feel like heritage is one of those things that's always a generation away from being lost. And I think that doubling down and learning it for myself, because once my mom passes away, in a long time, Mom, but one day we all will, it's like, man, we're going to lose some of that, making enchiladas on Christmas, all those little traditions we would do, we're going to lose those if we aren't intentional about them. So I want to pass those on to my son and any other kids I have.
Even if you hop on that Duolingo, like a couple minutes a day, I swear to you.
I thought you were going to say, yo, you should practice the enchiladas with me.
You could practice the enchiladas with me too, because I'm down to cook.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I'm actually really big on nationalities. Yeah. And I was so I'm Peruvian. That's my background. And Peruvians are just insane. Like, they're just insanely just proud to be Peruvian. I don't know what it is about us. Actually, for the World Cup that just passed, we were voted like the craziest fans, like the most like passionate fans out of the whole World Cup, because we hadn't been in a World Cup like final or even like attended a World Cup, I think, in over 50 years. But when I was little, it was so important for me because I saw my parents talk about Peru or culture or heritage, and I decided to get my my citizenship for Peru at a very young age.
Okay, so you're a dual citizen.
Yeah, I am a dual citizen.
Great.
So I actually had to get it before. I wanted to get it ever since I was like 12, but there was a law in Peru during the time that if you turn 18, it's a harder process to get it.
So you had to get it quick.
So I had to get it before I turned 18. So 17, I went to the embassy that's actually located in Patterson.
Gotcha.
Went there, talked to a couple guys. Was like, hey, I'm Peruvian. Both my parents are Peruvian. Maybe we can make something happen. And they were like, for sure. So then they gave me it, and they're like, you speak Spanish? I'm like, oh, poquito, pero, And they're like, take it, And that's great. What my mom did, actually, she sent me to Peru at a trade school for like 2 summers.
That's awesome.
And I think that's the thing, just, I'm not saying kick your son to the bucket, but sometimes you got to feed him to the rules a little bit, Yeah. You got to feed him to the rules and just like, let him figure it out.
We were in a group chat the other day, and my other friend Gabe, he is I think Puerto Rican, and we were talking. Our friends in the other group chat, they're all Caucasian, and they were like saying something about kids, and I'm like, y'all didn't get hit enough growing up. And then Gabe and I were like, facts. And I was like, I sent this little meme, and I was like, behind every good niño is a mother holding a chancla.
Of course. I think we've all gotten hit with the chancleta at least once or twice. You know what I mean? And it's not even like the hard like bamboo chancletas that they have. Now it's like the rubber ones. What I mean?
Those smack. It is the noise is worse than the pain. And look, my mom didn't beat me, but like, and I would even say that was so rare. My mom just didn't tolerate nonsense. Like, if we were acting up in a store, she'd go, all right, we're gone. We're done. And we're like, no, we'll behave. She's like, no. And she was willing to lose the battle so that she can win the war with us. And I feel like the thing we're seeing so much with kids nowadays, parents aren't willing to inconvenience themselves and look, embarrass themselves or whatever, like, to win the war. It's all about, we saw a kid like screaming his head off at the store, and the dad was like, all right, here, fine, you can have the phone. Instead of being like, no, that's not how we behave. We're going. And it's just like, I know it's easier said than done. I have a kid now, so I have to apply that. But I so appreciate the things my mom did. I can write a book on things I didn't like, but I think the book would be way bigger on things I did like that my mom and dad did that taught us just manners and how to behave and how to treat people, how to talk to adults. But yeah, and I see some kids now sometimes get away with stuff, and I like get on, I'm like, you're gonna talk to your mom like that, like, and you're not gonna get hit. Like I get nervous for them. I'm like, oh, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a big breakdown. I can get into that stuff too. I coached high school rugby for about 8 years, so I coached high school kids, which I think instilled in me a lot of the mentorship stuff that I'm sure you're gonna get into. But I learned a lot about kids, and I learned a lot about young adolescents and young men and what makes them tick. And half the time it's just having someone in their life that actually cares about them. And you would think, oh my gosh, they have parents, don't they care? But it's like, it's kind of weird. It's like parents in this generation kind of like made their kid the center of the universe a little bit too much. Observationally, I'm not a professional, not a sociologist. Please consult your doctor if you have any questions. But observationally, it was like these kids were so blown away that I asked them how their days were, and like did life with them, had relationships with them. One of my proteges, a guy named Norman, who's away. Shout out to Norman Rubinsky. Where you at? He's away doing an internship this summer, similar to the one I did when I was in 2012. That I set him up with, and he has been a guy that I've coached since he was 13 years old. He's 19 now. And I've known him since he's 13. I coached him, did life with him when he was of age. I asked his parents because he had an interest in photography, and I was like, "Can I bring Norman on shoots?" And they were like, "Yeah." I was like, "Cool." And I brought Norman on different shoots, and I mean, he's been with me now, working with me for like 4 or 5 years, and I love the kid. He's like my little brother, right? And it's been awesome to see him grow. He's still so young, and he's got so much to learn. But I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find another kid with the maturity level of that kid. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a 26-year-old with the same head on his shoulders that Norman has at 19. He is one of the best young men I've ever met in my entire life.
That's incredible. And I think that's a testament to, like, having good mentors, having good guidance, especially growing up. And I think that's that's kind of a good segue, because I kind of want to dive deep into a little bit of your upbringing. You talked about being in West Milford, and I'm sure that gave you a bunch of creative wise. I mean, if you're out, basically in the sticks.
No, it got me in trouble.
That's also not a bad thing either.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that personality building. It's like learning through trial and error. And like, as long as listen, you can get in trouble a little bit, but as long as you kind of grow out of it, and it's not like a part of your lifestyle as you keep on going, I think you get a lot into it. Because even me, I got into a lot of trouble. I have this whole weird history before I got into music and into sound engineering. And I used to get, I think I was in 6th, 7th grade when I first was introduced to drugs, and then I got involved with the wrong people, and then we started selling, and then yada yada yada. Some friends they got arrested, and then I had friends who passed away, and then you find something that you become passionate about, and then it just changes your life. It's like the shine in your eye changes, and your purpose for waking up is just completely it's filled with love and just passion. And when those two mix, I think the most amazing things happen in life. So, you're growing up in West Milford, you're getting in trouble, experimenting, fighting bears, fist fighting them, Tell me about the first time you got into something creative that had to do with photography or film.
I think it was closer to high school when I was doing some of those creative projects that I would never put on my portfolio now. Mm-hmm. And those were for a class called TV Science. I had a teacher named Mr. Padilla. Shout out, Mike Padilla. Where you at? And he was one of the best, touted as one of the best teachers in the whole school because he actually cared. The dude put his time, blood, sweat, and actual money into this program, and the school, kind of, I think, took him for granted big time. But he was just such an instrumental part in that phase of my life, and just believing in me and giving me the tools to do that. But yeah, it didn't really manifest until I got better and had more, more knowledge and more training and more mentorship down the road. But it was the spark. And I think, this is going to sound sad, but a big part of why I wanted to work in film was when I was 14 years old, my oldest brother passed away. And that, I mean, rocked our whole family.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. And I remember having friends that worked at a movie theater that was maybe from here to like Boot and Coffee Company. I mean, for reference, it's, less than a quarter mile, 2 clicks, maybe not 2 clicks is probably far, but anyway, there's a movie theater called Abbey Cinemas. Shout out to Abbey Cinemas, not there anymore. TJ Maxx in West Milford. And I had a few friends that worked there that was really cared about me and were really great people that knew my brothers and my older brother. And they would just let me watch movies for free. And in a lot of ways, it was a escape from a lot of really sad things that were going on in my life at the time. And just watching my family really struggle and go through that hard season. And so I loved to just go watch movies. I would go to the movie theater every day of the week if I could. And they would just like, at some point, just like didn't charge me anymore. They're like, come on. And then eventually I worked there and they were like, oh, come on. And on my days off, I would just go watch movies. And, I wouldn't like terribly watch the same movie more than once if it wasn't good. But like, I just like to get lost in different worlds and create things in my mind and ideas. And yeah, it was just always so much fun. But also it was totally a coping mechanism for, my own stuff that I was dealing with at the time for sure. But it was a spark that made me say like, I like creating worlds. I like, getting lost in creativity. And yeah, I think it was a big part of why I wanted to be a filmmaker.
Sweet. So do you think, so moving on from that, when was like the first time you actually got to do something like hands-on, or like what was the process of getting into like what you do today?
Long, a lot of bumps, but I would not be where I am without the people in my life. I have so many names to shout out, but the term like it takes a village to raise a kid. In a lot of ways, I feel almost bad that a lot of people won't have the same experience I had in the industry, because it was truly a blessing. Like I did an internship with an organization called Young Life, and they are awesome. And Dan Dyer, who's the head of video services for All Young Life, was like a mentor and a good friend to this day. I still do projects for them, which is a lot of fun. And then through that, I met Charles Burlap, which Charles is one of my best men at my wedding. He is, we call him the nucleus to this huge community of film people that we're all good friends with. He introduced me to this guy named Kevin McIntyre, K-Mac, another guy named McGee. I have so many names. This other guy named Mike Leonard, who's a good friend. There are all these like really great older dudes who are like, 5 to 6 to 7 years, enough distance away, all on the same road, but they were further down it.
And this is around like what age? Is this like after...
23, 24, 25. Okay. Yeah. Up until that point, I was kind of just like, lack of a better word, dicking around. Mm-hmm. I remember working at like, after I got back from the internship, the one thing I did with my uncle at an NCAA, I was bagging groceries. There was a guy, and I guess maybe this is a good, dude, when I talk about this stuff, it's going to be hard to believe because it happened to me.
Oh, of course, go ahead.
There was this guy named Ken who is, awesome, amazing, generous, wealthy guy, really good dude. He later on got me a TV show, basically got me on a project to direct a TV show sizzle for a guy named Art Wolf, who's a Nat Geo photographer, to be pitched for networks and stuff like that, which was awesome. And that was like one of the first big projects I did. And there's 2 people I want to shout out in that story, because Ken, obviously, this guy, he knew I liked video. I knew his nephew. And I think one day he owned a studio in town, and one day he was like going through my line at ShopRite. I was bagging groceries, and he's like, what are you doing here? You should be doing videos. I'm like, yeah, I know. But he's like, come by my studio, and met up with him, and he was like, what do you need to do it? And I'm like, oh, I need X, Y, Z. And he's like, all right, go buy it. He's like, we'll buy it. We'll buy it, and you can use it. Anything you want. And I bought a red with the red camera.
That's great.
But, and like, and he's just, it's an example for me of what I want to do, because, man, like, it's amazing that someone would take that shot on a person like me. And so that camera and those opportunities, they opened the door for so many opportunities for me between that point and when I did the Art Wolf thing. And then when I did the Art Wolf thing, it was like a big project. And I was like, man, I don't know if I have the ability. Maybe I need to hire this other guy, and they can run it, and I'll just kind of be their assistant. I reached out to my boy K-Mac, Kevin McIntyre. He's the man. Lives out in Columbus, Ohio, and he was my buddy Charles's mentor. So it's like third generation, you know, like, and now Norman, they all know Norm. So he's like the grandson or, you know, great grandson of all these guys as far as like the legacy that we've all been a part of. You know, so I reached out to him and I said, hey, do you want to direct this? And I'll kind of just help out. He's like, no, you're going to direct it and I'm going to assist you. And I'm just like, man, like the humility in this guy to not be like, move aside, kid, I got it. And just be like, you're doing it. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to take the time and probably not take as much money and all this other stuff just to make sure that I could do the job and give me the confidence to like do it. You know, it's almost like when you're teaching a kid how to like cut something and you grab his hand and you like guide him and you don't just go, move. I don't have the patience for this. I'll cut it for you. And there you go. Like you teach them how to do it. And I'll never forget that. That was a great moment for me to, you know, and I've had we'd be here all day if I went into all the different stories, but like I was blessed to have a lot of really great men in my life. I mean, it's why I started the company Ferrum is Latin for iron. And Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another, or one person sharpens another. And it's like, yeah, that's my story. It's my life. I'm not where I am without all these other roster of people who really love me. And they didn't just teach me about filmmaking. And a lot of times these people will say, what do I need? What do I need to learn about filmmaking? What do I need to learn about the business? And it's just like, at the end of the day, this thing could fail. You could not get jobs. Who you are matters immensely. And I dare I say that who you are, who I am, gets me more work than what I can do. And, you know, like these men in my situation, you know, they didn't just teach me about filmmaking. They taught me about life. They invited me into their homes. They invited me to watch them get married, to watch them pursue their, you know, what would be their wives, to raise kids, to have children. Like they were teaching me about life as much or even more so than they were teaching me about filmmaking. It just so happened we shared a craft we enjoyed, but it was bigger than that. And so in the stage of life I'm in, I can't not reciprocate. I'd be, you know, throwing aside everything that's been given to me to not be able to reciprocate that. So, yeah.
There was a lot of things just to unpack there. I think you make an excellent point with saying that who you are probably gets you more work than probably anything else you have. I think who you are as a person, it's something that has actually been echoed across many podcasts that I've had between Shane Stanton, Leo Justiniano.
Shout out Leo. I'm working with him tomorrow.
Yeah.
I met him on one of Michael's shoots and I brought him out to the Hamptons 2 weeks ago. Worked with him once, but I just met him, talked to him for a while. I'm like, this dude's legit. Hey, how would you like to come work with me? And we spent all of 3 hours each way just talking about life. And he's such a good dude. And I got him on a couple different gigs with me, and it's been great. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah, big shout out Leo, because I have much love for him. He kind of was the first podcast I did when I started doing the podcast solo, and it's amazing because he actually the one who helped me get the lights, you know, helped me with a lot of like this film stuff when we started out. He didn't necessarily agree with the black magic, but
yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the black magic either, but I mean, hey, it's a good camera. I've used it before. It's not my preference, but I've used it and it's great.
Yeah, because it's funny in the film community. Like what's fun about, you know, having a podcast and doing this stuff is you get to meet a lot of different people, get a lot of different opinions, and I kind of just get to be a wet sponge and get to like listen and, you know, be joyful while doing all this stuff. And you know, you talk about Reds, and I actually have another friend, Sean, who came down here and we did a small like film when we were filming maybe like 3 weeks ago. We were recording Shane and him around his apartment with his what do you call it, his roommate.
Yeah.
And he's actually an ambassador for Black Magic. And at the time, I would have gotten another camera if like the A7 wasn't. I think Leo suggested like the A7 to get. But I ended up just getting a really good deal on the Black Magic. Like I think the Black Magic is like $2,500 for like just body itself. What ended up happening is I forget the guy's name, but he is the photographer and filmmaker for the Intrepid Museum in New York City.
Okay.
He was selling it on Facebook Marketplace. I didn't know he was that at the time, and he was selling the whole kit he had for like $2,500. Right.
Wow.
So it came with like I guess I don't know if you call it the viewfinder. I guess the cage and everything else. I talked him down to 22. And then he gave me like everything.
Nice.
And then he was kind of sketchy a little bit. No offense to you, dude. Love you, man. But he was like, bring cash only. Meet me in front of the Intrepid Museum. And I was like, all right. Damn. You know, and you know, I'm young. You know, I'm not used to carrying that much cash around with me. I showed up. You know, he opens up this IKEA bag, and then boom, there it is. And I think once opportunity strikes, you kind of just gotta roll with the punches. You know. But I don't want to get into much of me. Tell me a little bit more then about, so you built this well-knit community, and I think that actually I get that a lot from what Michael was telling me about you, mentorships, and I think it's so important as well because the people who raised me, you know, not even just my parents, you know, my parents, first-generation immigrants, and I'm sure you could relate to, you know, them working a lot and kind of just like not necessarily letting you like, you know, raise yourself, but you know, like you need other people as well. And I've had plenty of other people in my life. And shout out to my music director in high school, because he was like another father figure to me, who helped lead me through everything. And kind of also my music director out in William Patterson when I went there. Again, just another mentor figure helping you figure out things. So you're working for this company. I forget what was the name you were telling me for that mentor when you first did that first project. Young Life. So when did that kind of go and blossom into your own company? And then what was the first kind of big project you did with your company?
All right. So it's funny, the circumstances of how I met the next guy, Charles, who's been a huge influence in my life. So this summer, real quick tidbit, this last summer, I was an executive producer on I'll send you the trailer for it, for a film that Charles wrote. So Charles and myself, our buddy Zach, our buddy Gabe, and our buddy Kevin K-Mac, we all basically put in money, time, energy, and eventually shot and produced a film called The Hanover Incident. And it's a coming of age story with kids, monster movie, kind of, you know, Stranger Things-esque. It took place in Hanover, Ohio, and it's pretty cool. And I've seen the latest cut, and it's like really close to being a really solid 12-minute short, and it's beautiful. We shot it with our Reds. We shot it with these really beautiful anamorphic lenses, a whole crew out there. Shot a lot of stuff at night in cornfields. Charles's mom owns a huge property with cornfields, so we got to shoot in cornfields at night, which was sick. Dope. Shout out Norman, my boy Norman was in it. He was an actor, and he also like helped out with everything. But anyway, so Charles has been a huge part of that story, and we call Charles the nucleus. He's like the Kevin Bacon. Like they say, everyone is like a degree away from Kevin Bacon. Like Charles, if you ask anyone in our film group, it's like, how do you know so-and-so? It's like, Charles. How do you know this person? Charles. So on the last day or two of my internship, which was in upstate New York for a camp called Saranac, I was working on a promo for the next summer for the camp. And they told me, they're like, hey, you know, you're going to have to share your editing suite with this professional videographer from New York. And I'm like, ugh. Like, and then I saw him coming through like the sound booth, and I was like, this guy, he's going to suck. I was just salty about the whole thing. And he walks in, and he's so nice. He's like, hey, man, how you doing? I'm like, good. And he's just like, what are you working on? And I'm like, you know, it's just something. He goes, can I watch? And I was like, okay, you know, and I press play, and he watches it, and he goes, man, I really love that. I like how you did this, and I'm like, stop, I'm trying to hate you. And literally from there, we just formed a friendship, and I started working on things with him. And at the time, he was living in a small apartment, and Upper West Side, near kind of sketchy little park. But I remember parking by his house and almost getting jumped one night on my way home. But yeah, so I just started working with him, and now, I guess my first big project, it's like the big projects came from a friend of mine named Mike Leonard. I think is the first job I ever did with him that I actually got paid money. So the thing about Charles' jobs initially at first, he did a thing called Terminal B, but I wasn't there for half of it. It was like a TV show pilot. It was a big thing. But as far as like the first big job that I actually got paid for was with this guy, Mike. Mike is a firefighter and he's a filmmaker and he's an awesome guy. Really, really good dude. I learned a lot from him as well. He hired me to shoot this thing for like Lady Antebellum, for like Bed Bath & Beyond. And I remember that was like the first like paid job. And then I think a day later I did another thing for like Marriott, and they surprised this guy who was a deserving like fan to get tickets to the Super Bowl. And
Sick.
the person they like did this secret like undercover camera thing at a restaurant and had Clay Matthews from the Packers pretend to be a waiter and like bring them their tickets or like their, take their order and stuff. And they were like, so it was like a hidden camera kind of deal. But anyway, yeah, I mean, those were like big jobs. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't get too caught up on the whole big jobs thing. Like you got to make a living, sure. But like, it's like you can get too wrapped up in wanting to be, it's like the gateway, it's like drugs. It's like, oh man, you're never going to get enough of this big job. You always have to do big jobs. And at the end of the day, like you got to pay your bills, and there are some jobs I'll say yes to because I'm a freelancer. If I'm not working, I'm not making money. So yeah, you got your get out of bed price and you got your jobs that it's just like talking heads. Like that's the other thing is like, you can say you did a job for, I've done work for name a big company, but all we did was go in and like record someone's head talking for an internal purpose and no one will ever see it. But it's a big job and I got paid a good rate, but like, that's not really what it's about. Like doing what we did last summer, making a film, that's what it's about. Having friends that all the guys that I mentioned before were all my groomsmen in my wedding, outside of my brothers and my buddy Jordan, like they were all my groomsmen. They became family. They became friends. These are people who we do life with each other. We go to wedding. I just had a wedding with another good friend of mine. Went to his wedding, and then another good friend of mine sat at my table. And these are guys that like, yeah, we've done stuff on, but like, be hard pressed to be like, do you remember a specific job that you worked on with them that was like awesome? And it's like, yeah, everyone, because I love those people. And that's what it's about. Like when you can work with clients that respect you and work with people you love, every job's a big job. Every job's a great job. It's the stuff that sucks with clients that suck that makes you think you're on the bottom still. But as you progress in your career, you get far less, hey, that's going to cost $1,000, and someone comes back and is like, oh, that's just too expensive. Can you not do this? Can you not do this? To like the client that you're like, hey, that's going to be $20,000. And they're like, cool, send me the invoice. And you can work on jobs like that with people like the guys I work with. Every day is great. And it's funny. My wife always goes, what are you working on today? And I go, I don't know. And that's the truth. There's a lot of jobs. Zach will call me. Charles will call me and say, hey, I got a job on the 13th. Here's what we need. We're doing a 2-camera interview, XYZ. And I find out what we're doing the day of. It's like, because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And the people that are chasing clout, the people that are trying to show off and say, look how good a filmmaker I am. It's like, they burn out so fast and they leave the industry. I've seen it time and time again. You only win in this business through relationships. And if you're not genuinely looking for relationships, work is going to be scarce, because especially during the pandemic, relationships mattered, especially when shoots got smaller and you needed people to kind of put more hats on because you couldn't have crews of 20 anymore. It was like your friends, your buddies. Those are the people you hooked up. Who do I get jobs from? My buddies. Who do I give jobs when I get jobs? My buddies. And yeah, we get new people every once in a while that are great, new additions. You gotta keep funneling down, what you have to other people like Michael, Leo, my boy Norm, there's a handful of this guy, Jake, that moved from Ohio that I've been working with. Like, you got to give opportunities and you got to give reps to some of these younger guys and get them on the same page and do to others what was done to you. But like, at the end of the day, like, some of these guys, Leo and I were working on like a feminine product video the other day, and then we were doing a thing with Stranger Things, and then tomorrow I don't even know what we're doing, and it doesn't matter because I like working with Leo. He's someone I can have a conversation with and have fun with for 12 hours, and we could both make a good wage, and we can both, make connections and build other relationships, and that's what it's all about, man.
You know what? I'm actually interested now because
you gonna join the film industry.
You never know. Getting into it is a lot right now. Learning. I have a sound engineering background, but I always had a love for film.
You could be a sound guy.
Yeah, maybe. I honestly have just always had a passion for film, recording things. I think just being creative. When I was little, we filmed YouTube videos all the time, and what specifically? I'll tell you the highlight of my film career. Maybe you like it.
Let's hear it. I'd love to hear it.
It's it was a villain. I guess it was like a superhero type movie or like little YouTube short. And I made it with one of my friends, Tyler Reyes, who I actually had on the podcast. Shout out Tyler. And we didn't want to use like real names for the villains. So I think the villain was Kidel Fastro. So you just Kidel Fastro, right? We added that, and then I believe I was one of the superheroes. Oh my God,
Kidel Fastbro.
Yeah,
would have been a good one.
I was. It was two cops. That's what it was. Two cops, and they would kind of run around and save the world. And one of whose name was Cox, and one was name was Lenny. So COX though, Cox and Lenny, play on words,
Yeah.
And then we'd run around, and I don't even know what kind of camera we had. We probably just shot it with like whatever camera we found, and then we made a little series. I died in the first episode, and then the second one I come back as a ghost, and they prayed over my my snow grave and took a piss in it, and we were just posting up dumb stuff on that like on YouTube and stuff, but I think it's really interesting what you say about forming relationships with other people and making that networking group. And I think it's something that Leo talked about very deeply, and also Michael talked about very deeply, and how important it is. And I see that they learned that from you. I mean, like, Leo hasn't been under your wing that long, but Michael definitely, for sure, because he has, you could tell the amount of respect he has for you. But
he better. But that's the thing too, dude. You can't have an ego about it. Like, Michael owes me nothing. And I've told him this. I've told Leo this. Like, if they never hired me on anything or never talked to me again, I'd do it again. Like, and that's who I want to be. Like, I don't want anything in return, because people did it for me, and they wanted nothing in return but to see me succeed. And when you have an ego, when you're greedy, when you're selfish, when you're not sending recommendations to people because you don't want them to take your guys or your girls or your team, it's like, that's just not how you succeed. And I don't want to be that. Like, thank God I found my wife. If I can just do a little quick tangent, my wife is she's the best woman in the entire world. I love her with all my heart. She is amazing. When I met her and I knew what she was about and similarly, she had a bunch of really great women in her life that poured into her from a very young age. Photographer. She's a photographer. She's a designer. This woman is so talented, and I've seen her just grow leaps and bounds in her confidence. Like, she's an illustrator. She's a designer, photographer. She's the triple threat. She's the prettiest woman in the entire world, and she's my wife. And she is so much a product of other people loving her as well. And we've had the opportunity together, like, I had my life with Norman, knowing him and being his coach and being his friend. And then I met Jamie, and then I married Jamie, and she just hopped right on board and was just like, hey, I have an old 5D here. We just bought a new one, still in great condition. Let's give it to Norm. Give it. And I'm like, I love you. This is who we want to be. Like, I don't know if you know who Marshawn Lynch is. Yeah. So Marshawn Lynch, they were interviewing him. I think it was, shout out to Deion Sanders. He goes, Marshawn, you a little shy, huh? He goes, nope. I just never seen talking do nothing for nobody. I'm about that action, boss. And I'll never forget because it's so true. You have all these people, these Hollywood elites, these people that come on social media and they want to talk about inclusion, diversity, change, etc. And they think they get that way by tokenizing the industry. I mean, you look at the people that I hire, the people that are on my crew, and it's a cornucopia. I mean, we have people of color, we have people who are Latino, we have people who are Asian, we have women, we have, I shouldn't even say women as a subgroup, but you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know, we have diversity across all the spectrum. And it's not like because I was trying to like check off boxes, you know, and we've gotten shoots that have been like, hey, there needs to be less white people. And I'm like, okay. Or, hey, there needs to be, you know, we had someone that's like, hey, you know, we need someone who's gay in this shoot. And I'm like, and I reached out to one of my buddies who's gay and he's just like, I don't want to get the job because I'm gay. Like, you know, like that's not how you get there. And my wife and I, you know, I think we really believe in philanthropy and look, we're not loaded yet. No, I'm just kidding. We're not loaded, but people buy the lie that, oh, when I get there, when I get this amount of money, then I'm going to be generous. And it's like the sign of future faithfulness is current faithfulness. What are you doing with what you have now? And like, look, if we can give a camera that we're not using to a kid to give them an opportunity, great. What's our goal down the road? Like my wife and I would love to do a camera grant for kids in, you know, low income areas and be able to give them cameras and actually give them lessons on how to use it. Like that's how you shake up the disparity of, you know, diversity in certain industries. You give access to young people and give them mentorship and give them the ability to do things like we were. You know, Jamie was gifted a camera. I was literally gifted a really nice camera. Like, and I love having a partner that gets that and wants to do that as well. It makes a huge difference. And it allows us to do that, not just with our money though, too, right? Like with our time. And yeah, what a blessing that is for us. We love it. It gives us energy. We love to be able to do that.
You know what? I respect that. And it's actually inspirational to hear that from, you know, someone who's older than me, because it's hard being a little bit young and starting to get into this industry, meeting everybody who you do and seeing people with egos, seeing, you know, meeting heroes and them not necessarily
never meet your heroes.
Exactly. You know, meeting people you look up to and it not panning out the way you think it would, or, you know, finally doing the cool thing that everybody, you know, like you would love to post up on social media and like, hey, you know, I did this, but then, you know, there's a satisfaction that comes from, I guess, the clout that comes with it, right? But there's no internal satisfaction that actually makes you happy with it. And I guess my question leading up to this is, how do you keep that level head, that generous head, and not let your ego get the best of you when you literally probably work in one of the most toxic, you know, places where you could find the most toxic people in the industry?
The short answer is the Lord. I mean, I'm a Christian. That's what I profess. I follow Christ, Jesus Christ, and everyone in my entire life that's been put in my entire life has been through my relationship with him and other people who believe and live the same way. That's a foundation, and that's awesome. But also people living that out, right? Because you can say you're a Christian and be a POS of a person. And I'm grateful enough that that's not the case with the people in my life. And I'm grateful for that, because that would be here's the truth. No one's coming to help you. And in a lot of ways, it's my pastor says something really funny. I go to Michael's church, and he said something along the lines of like, when people say things like, here's a fire right there, right? And you're 3 miles away and you're like, I just don't feel it. And there's opportunities, but you're 3 miles away and going, I just don't feel it. And it's the same thing like when you talked earlier about like, you know, and maybe not you, but I've heard this before. People are like, yeah, that's easy for you to say. You have mentors and stuff. I just don't know where to find them. I'm like, they're everywhere. But like, it takes us sometimes to seek that out, have the knowledge and the know-how to seek it out, A, and B, the attitude and the mindset to be humble. Like, how many young people do you know that are like, I don't need to learn from that boomer. I don't need to learn from those people. Like, when I get in a room with older filmmakers, like, I worked on a student film. Shout out my friend Jennifer Katchler. She's a director and screenwriter in Brooklyn. She's great. She's from West Milford too, and she was in the David Lynch film program. And I actually got to work on a film with her. And I worked with this DP who was a guy in his 50s, and I loved it. It was awesome. It was so great to learn from him. And there were things he did that friends my age that I thought were great, didn't do. But like, I wasn't going to come in there with an attitude like, this old timer is using this method or that method, you know? And it's like the attitude to receive wisdom, you know, like wisdom is one of those things that it's out there. If you listen, if you have the attitude to receive it, but like, people complain all the time that it's not there or the opportunities aren't there. But like, sometimes you just got to get closer to the fire. You just got to open your eyes. You just got to look and be humble enough when it's there, you know, because maybe it's not the person you dreamed of. Maybe it's not your, you know, like you said, never meet your heroes. Like, well, I said it, but you've inferred it. But like, there's so many people out there going like, if I can only get a job with this person, if I can only get a big shoot, if I can only, you know, instead of being like, hey, there's this girl who's a photographer down the road and she looks like she's doing a good job and making money. Maybe I should just shoot her a message and say, hey, can I work for you? I'll give you 1 day a week. I'm in college right now. I got a part-time job. I can give you every Thursday and I can come be your hands and be your assistant and learn the business, learn how to talk to clients, learn how to deliver, learn how to edit. Like, people aren't willing to do that. And that's why they'll fail, because they're putting out junk and going, I want to start making, you know, $2,000 a shoot. And it's like, you're not there yet. Go find someone who is there. Be of service to them. Be humble to their teaching. You'll get there, but people don't want the process. And to your original question, which, can you ask it again? It's just about how do you keep like level-headed and humble with all these people who have egos and working in one of the most like toxic basically places in any industry? So this conversation right here, right? It's the most important thing I'm doing right now.
I appreciate it.
In the room with you, talking to you, having this conversation is the most important thing I'm doing right now. And people out there that are chasing the next high, the next big job, the next big thing, you know, it's like they're never able to be content with what they're doing. And I'm so content. I'm so content to the point that if tomorrow I was done with the film industry, I can walk away and say, cool, I did it. I did everything I set out to do, which half of that had nothing to do with making good films. And if you know your why, if you know why you're doing what you do, and you know yourself in those instances, like, yeah, you're always going to keep a level head because you're not getting your value from your work. So if I go a whole month of doing talking heads videos that aren't interesting, it's like, cool, it's a job. I'm not getting my value from this. At the end of the day, my happiness doesn't swing on the pendulum of whether or not my work is cool or my work is good or I'm making crazy money. And when that, and I said it earlier in the podcast, like, the most important things to me right now are that little boy and that wife of mine. And nothing could touch that. So I don't care. You know, at the same time, do I care about my work? Yes. Do I care about the relationships I have? Yes. Do I care about making clients happy? Absolutely. But it's not the first thing. And that idea of like being present in your own life, like, yeah, I have an important thing I'm doing tomorrow, but right now, this is the most important thing I'm doing. And I'm enjoying every minute of it. It's been great.
Dude, thank you so much, number one. Number two, I just feel like I could just relate so hard to everything you're saying, you know. Some people are looking for the next high. And there was something I said on another podcast, actually, that I was on, that it never gets easier to be, like, grateful for what you have. And, like, I think, you know, with that being said, it's like, as you grow and get more stuff, and get more opportunities, you tend to forget a little bit about where that came from. And when you sit back and you're chasing all those highs, it's like, you don't ever want to be at a part where you're not satisfied.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like, I'm lucky enough to feel like I've understood this at a young age, and especially coming with parents from immigrant past and understanding where they've come from. If this podcast ended today for me, or if today was my last day on earth, I mean, like, knock on wood, but I'd be so happy, and I'd feel like to this point, like I've accomplished. I'm doing what I wanted to. I have the goal. It's there, and being a good person, being great to other people, and the philanthropy aspect as well. It's always stayed close to my heart as well. You talk about giving cameras to other people. For me, it's like I want to give instruments to people who didn't have them, because I didn't get to grow up with that, and I had to do so much side work to get to where I wanted to be with that. I think it's everything there. If you're listening, rewind everything he just said before that question and just re-listen to it time and time again, because that's something that I think is so hard to keep connecting to as you grow in this industry, as you meet new people, and having other people challenge your thoughts as well. And it's so hard not to compare yourself to other people in the industry as well, because I mean,
comparison is the thief of joy. Big time.
It really is. Have you ever had those moments where you've been comparing yourself to other people?
Sure. I'm human, but they're on a different journey than I am. Like, and this isn't like, it's like you always see those super cuts where like Joe Rogan or one of those people who's like, no one's coming to help you. And they play like Linkin Park, like in the background. Dun, 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 dun. But like, it's true. Like, I remember people complaining about not being where they're at because of this president, because of this thing, because of that person. Like, victimhood mentality is real no matter what you do. Film industry, this industry, that industry, like, there are survivors and there are victims. Like, I grew up in I'd call it low-income family. My parents worked their butts off to provide for 6 kids. We lost our brother when we were all teenagers. Like, it sucked for a very long time. We didn't have a ton of resources. We didn't have much help. I remember helping my parents out with paying rent and groceries in high school. Like, that's the truth. And it's helped make me who I am today, along with a lot of really great people in my life that have loved me, that have helped me. And hope that I found in my life as well. But like, there was no bill from Washington, that came and was like, all right, we're going to give that guy some money to help him with his career. We're going to give some opportunities. Like, in the same way that like, there's no bill in Washington coming to help the next young me. I got to find, I have a few of them in my life, but like, I'm always going to be looking for the next me. And hopefully they're way better than me. But like, there's no, like, if you put all your faith in politics, they're all corrupt. Anyway, you lose. You lose when you follow any of them. But you put all your faith in politics and casting the right vote for the right person. It's like, none of them are thinking about the people that need help in your life. The widow down the street that lost her husband, there's no bill, there's no vote that's going to go towards something that's going to bring her a meal. There's no bill that's going to help the kids down the road that their dad and mom both work and they're kind of by themselves and they don't have food. They don't have enough to eat. They don't have enough to drink. Like, all these things are real things that I've encountered in my life that if I don't care about it, no one will. I always say, like, you got 2 people, maybe they both vote a different way, right? But there's a homeless person and the one person goes, ugh, this guy is he's a crutch on society. He needs to pull himself up from his bootstraps and he needs to get a job and stop being a leech. And then walks past him. And you got the other person that's like, oh, this poor guy, like, I need to go vote tomorrow. And if I vote for the right person, there's going to be a nice program in place that's going to help this guy and he's going to be okay. And then he walks off. But like, what'd they both do? They walked away. They walked over him. They didn't help him. And like, again, I'm not saying you shouldn't vote. I'm not saying, because policies matter, clearly. All that stuff matters if you're in the political space and you care about that stuff. But like, at the end of the day, you know one person, I'm sure more, but you know one person in your life, they can use help, they can use a mentor, they can use resources, and you help them at your own, you don't help them at your own peril. Because there is no greater joy in the entire world than being a blessing to someone and watching them thrive. And you can't save everyone. And there are some people we've poured into and we've helped that couldn't get out of their own way. And that's unfortunate. But there is someone out there that is a you, and I always say this, like be what you needed when you were them. And you have an opportunity to do that. Everyone does. But there's never going to be any mandate or anything that's going to make you do that. You're going to have to want it. You're going to have to dig deep and say, yeah, that would have been great for me. I need to do that.
Sean, talking about life is absolutely insane talking to you. It's always awesome to talk to someone who is, of that mentorship and of, getting to hear your story so far has been like really inspiring, and I'm kind of at a loss for words with that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I do want to get into a little bit about your film career. Even though, call it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't really care.
Oh, I can drop some names, bro. Yeah, what do you want?
You don't need to. You don't need to. It's really
you
whatever.
ever heard of Spielberg? Well, I don't know him, but I've watched some of his movies.
What I was interested in about, funny enough, especially since it's close to the podcast, the pillow you're sitting on,
Mr. T.
Mr. T. Did you have a story with Mr. T that you could share, or was
It's not that good a story.
It's all good.
It's not that good. It's just I worked with him once, and he did a project, and he was just himself, and he actually signed something that I have. I don't know. I gave it to my father-in-law because I found out my father-in-law and my mother-in-law were big Rocky fans, and when he's Clubber Lang and he fights Rocky in Rocky 3, so I gave him something like that for Christmas or some sort of special gift for him. But it was like a little like Mr. T like voice box, and you'd push it, and you'd like, shut up, fool, like all that stuff. But yeah, I did a shoot with him for like Marriott, and he was like basically sitting in a lifeguard chair hackling Nick Valinda, the Flying Valindas are the family of like tightrope walkers, and he was like hackling them while he did like a walk through like a building up in like Union Square or something like that. But yeah, that's the extent of it. It wasn't even that crazy of a story. It's just, like I've had crazier experiences on set, like with celebrities, but a lot of times, dude, they're like unacceptable. Like every once in a while you meet a really cool, like celebrity in quotes. But I'm much more interested in athletes are fun. A lot of cool professional athletes we've worked with, like they're usually really funny and fun and like down to earth and like really lovely people. They take direction well. And then you'll get your divas out there that are, and I say diva, that's a gender neutral term because men are also equally or more able, I think we did something for like one of the Lion Kings a little while back, and like the guy who played Simba, they were like, is this the only water he has? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, he only drinks like a certain kind of water. So they like sent the PA out to get like the water this dude drinks. And it's like, Poland Springs ain't good enough for you, buddy. But that's kind of like why I guess when you pull back the curtain of Oz a little bit and you get to see that world, it starts to not really like, it loses its flair a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
I've had the fortune of like being behind the curtain a little bit and being like, yeah, these people are not people you would want to follow for the most part.
Yeah, I mean,
they're all miserable and like they're really superficial. Like we did a project, I won't say who, I won't say names, but he was like, yo, you guys see my post earlier on Instagram? We're like, no. And he's like, cool, yeah, you make sure you go like that. And I'm like, this dude has 5 million followers. He's very wealthy, very well known, but he's like asking like random people he just met to like go like his post. Like how, how
strange.
sad is that?
Yeah.
It's sad. It's like this guy can't find happiness in the things he has, his money, his fame. He's like still looking for affirmation from strangers. And that's like, that just points, a big neon sign at a bigger problem in the hearts of some people in this world that have everything but really have nothing.
No, yeah, for sure. I think what the sound industry, what the music industry kind of blends with the film industry, especially when it comes to dealing with quote unquote celebrities, right? For people who are in the outside of the industries, because basically sound engineers, we're the back curtain of the music industry. Like literally, music does not exist. The music you hear on the radio does not exist without sound engineers. Period. Even funny enough, even in the movie industry,
Dude, there's no joke when it comes to like mastering audio for the movies. Like that's the thing I always tell people that are starting off, like outside of like what we've talked about. I'm like, all right, so after you're done being like a good person, building relationships, et cetera, then I go sound and audio. That's how you tell the pros from the amateurs. Like you can buy the nicest camera in the entire world. If it sounds like crap and it's not lit well, no good, no bueno. Like sound and audio. And you got to learn a little bit about sound. And obviously when you work on really great projects and you have like sound mixers on set that are like really, I mean, they have all the odds and bots and things, and they're crazy good. But it makes a world of difference. And so when you have the right budget, it's like, I don't handle sound. If I got a budget, hiring a sound person, they're coming with their kit and they're doing all the stuff because they're pros and they do a great job. Could I do a decent job with sound? Yes, I've trained myself in that way, but like, I'm not as good as some of these other people. Outside of like literally a stationary interview, I don't even touch sound.
yeah, actually, sound. I actually, my sound engineering background, just for a little.
Sure,
bit,
I'd love to hear it.
I found that I was going to be a sound engineer my sophomore year of college. And funny enough, the guy who I had here just before a couple hours ago, Matt Philippek, he was my one of my buddies in that program. And it started off with 16 people in the program. Program's so cutthroat. By the time we're like senior year, we had 6. We were down to 6. And I thought I was going to be a music teacher at first. I still want to be a teacher in the future as retirement to teach everything I've learned through the years. But when I got into sound engineering, I literally didn't even know. Basically, I mean, comparative to camera world, it's like you go into a camera class and everybody's there in college to learn how to use a camera. And the first person raised their hands, they're like, yeah, I don't know what an SD card is. Yeah, that was me in the music world. I was like, the mic cable, I mean, everybody knows a mic cable, but they're called XLRs.
XLR, yeah.
And I didn't know what an XLR was. So when we were in the first class and he's just like, all right, guys, grab the XLRs. And I was just like, and I'm just watching what everybody else is doing and kind of just like.
What do you call what do you call an XLR? Because I call that something else.
And the one class that changed a lot of the trajectory of what I wanted to do, especially in my like senior year, I took this film class that it was the shout out Angelo Pinetta. He's one of my professors, and I actually interned for him for a bit. He does sound for a lot of like movies, and he would make us analyze movies and see like how it works of them putting in sound effects and how it adds to the movie. And that's where I learned. I was like, oh wow, the sound to most movies,
sound design.
Yeah, sound design. I mean, like, I'd say like probably like 80% of the sounds in a movie is like fake, and then you would never figure, because a good mixed movie, like, you wouldn't even be able to tell, and sometimes you don't even realize, you watch these spaceship movies, and you're just like, oh yeah, and that's probably what the spaceship sounds, but you never think that a sound engineer is behind it. And one movie that we analyzed that ended up, believe it or not, I'm not a movie person at all. Like, you could name, and I'm so glad you said Waterboy before, because listen, a lot of movies I have not watched. I'm not a movie person, although I love watching movies.
Sure.
That's like one movie that I do know.
Classic.
We watched Sucker Punch.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's the one where, like, they fight. They're really dancing, but it's like them fighting, like, robots and stuff.
Yeah. And it like, takes place in, like, a mental ward, and then it's kind of like oh, it was all a dream kind of sequence type thing.
Yep.
That movie's soundtrack is so well made, and people have no clue. And we actually analyzed the whole thing, and learning how to do that as an engineer and what I do completely changed like the trajectory of like how I view stuff creatively. And keeping a creative mind is hard because sometimes you get I guess like writer's block, it would be like an example, or just like a creative block. And I think it's difficult when you're working in your field. I imagine, like, obviously they have you there for the personality, right? But part of it is like what you do. Do you ever find that you have to be creative on set, or do you find yourself mostly just doing what you got to do and running a team?
I I think being creative, and so there's a shirt that someone has and it says fix it in pre, because the joke on set is every time something doesn't go great, you just go fix it in post. And it's kind of like a lazy way. It's like a slapstick, like tongue in cheek, but like also late. Like when people really say it and not laughing about it, it's like kind of like lazy. It's the last thing you want to hear from your crew, because you're like, no, we want to fix it now, so I don't have to spend hours in post production, fix it in post. But I've learned a great deal about how setting yourself up for success in pre-production is, I mean, just and getting to the point where you actually feel good about charging for pre-production, because it is work. Like there's another guy, another awesome mentor. His name is Matt Novak. He is a creative director and just really good dude, good friend. And I remember, I brought him on a project, which is one of the big reasons why I'm rebranding my entire company and doing a whole different ball game, on top of the film aspect of things, because he opened my eyes to this other world of creativity that I never even thought about. So I was Ferrum Films for years, loved it, Ferrum Films, and then now I am Ferrum Creative. And so part of that is we did a rebrand for a planner company, and it was such an awesome experience, because at first, how many times have you heard this, right? Or maybe you haven't, but people who are watching that are filmmakers have heard this. Someone calls them up and says, hey, we want to do a video. I'm like, okay. Why? And they go, because we just think we need one. Like, just want to put it up on the site, like they don't know. And at worst, at best, you make a great video for them, but at worst, 200 people see it on YouTube and it just sits on their website. And so they just spent whatever they spent on it on an expensive paperweight that's not going to ever get them any ROI. And so I found that by being creative or asking creative questions in that process, you can also maximize their use for you and your usefulness as a business. So you could turn let's throw random numbers. You could turn a one-time $10,000 client into a 4-time a year, every quarter $10,000 client, $40,000 client a year, by helping them get vision for what they can use the video for, or videos for. Maybe they were like, hey, make us a 3-minute video. It's like, hey, you get one use out of that 3-minute video. How about we make you 3 60-second videos that you're going to get more use out of, But anyway, so for this project that Matt and I did, he asked that question, why, and it made them really go, oh, wow, that's a great question. And so we pitched to them doing a rebrand, and they were like, great, let's do it. And we rebranded their entire company, and Matt really led it, but it was awesome just sitting there and watching him ask the questions he asked. Who are you? Your messaging, how you want to be heard from customers. And like, for me as a filmmaker at that point, let's just put myself in that chair again, as a filmmaker, vendor, provider of services. Like, how many times have I worked with clients that didn't care about that literally were like, yeah, make us a video. And you're like, what font you want to use? They're like, whatever. Hey, what colors you guys want to use? I don't know, blue. Like, if you go do a job for Coca-Cola tomorrow, someone from Coca-Cola is going to send you a PDF with their brand guidelines. That's going to be like, hey, here's our color. Here it is on the Pantone book. Here's our logo. Don't stretch it out. Here's the uses for it. Here's how we talk in our scripts. Here's how we, so they care so much about their brand, and they build a sandbox then for you to be creative in, as opposed to you shooting left field and be like, all right, let's do something for Coca-Cola. And they get it and go, this isn't us. And so by building a sandbox in the form of branding and brand awareness and guidelines, you then could be more creative in that scope, as opposed to, Wild West, be creative, have fun. And it's just so stressful because you're like, I have to come up with a whole identity for this company and they're not paying me nearly enough. And, you know, it's like, that's just the rabbit hole that a lot of creatives go down. It's not really good for them because a lot of people are not creative in that sense. They're creative in the tasks. They're not so creative in the plotting and the planning. And so I think that's why you get so many people that are disappointed with the work they get, especially clients. So my goal is to put together some promotional content. So my site's not officially up yet, but we are going to be putting out by the fall a whole new reel website, etc., explainer videos that are going to talk and educate clients. I want to put money behind these to go, hey, are you a brand, you know, that wants high performing content towards you? Are you setting yourself up? Are you setting up vendors to actually give you high performing content? Like, do you know yourself? And that's a question that, like, the big ones they do, right? If Spotify calls you tomorrow and says, hey, we got a project, they're going to send you, you know, Coca-Cola, Nike, they got you. But the mid-tier corporations, the nonprofits, like a lot of them don't have that down and they don't know how to have that down. And so I want to make products that are going to educate them, packages that make sense for them, and brand them, or if they already have a strong brand, help them channel it and put it in a more ingestible, palatable product that they can then, like, look, they don't have to hire me after that. If they got a guy or got a girl that they like, go to them, but at least go to them with something that's going to say, hey, this is us. We really care about our brand. We've built it over years. We want you to also care about our brand. And here's our colors. Here's our logos. Here's our use case. Here's how we talk to clients. So if you're a social media manager, like you talked about being, how many of your clients gave you a script and said, this is how we talk?
Nobody.
And did they ever complain to you about anything you posted?
Yeah, for sure.
Did they give you the guidance ahead of time?
What? No. And I think it's important because it's funny because I for the most part, like, you know, you're talking about this and I'm like, damn, I was like, I need to work on my own stuff too, you know, because for me too, it was the same conversation with them. I was like, how do you want to be viewed? What is your goals? Like, what are you trying to get off of me posting videos? Because a lot of people,
Sure,
they want a lot of content. And it's like, okay, I get it. We can shoot something beautiful. I could focus on here. Like, I could make a video go viral. But what's the point of a video going viral? What's the point of something looking beautiful if there's no goals behind it? Like, what's your mindset behind it? How are you affecting the people that you are trying to get? And number one, who are you trying to get? Is it anybody? You know, and a lot of people confuse, you know, doing these clout videos, it will be the way to success. And I don't think that's true. I think touching people's hearts and souls will be the way to the success.
Storytelling.
It's storytelling, you know, and that creates longevity
or
between that.
story selling. And, you know, for branded content, for stuff like that. I mean, you know, we do projects with this my buddy Charles. So we're coming back to Charles. He does branded content for Fox. Fox Entertainment, Fox News, Fox World, all the Fox kind of stuff, sports. And there's this client that they have that is a nonprofit. And up until about a year or two ago, they had done things the nonprofit way, you know, spent no money on any marketing or anything like that. And just sort of like, you know, but they still had an impact because a lot of those people are super passionate about what they do. And it's awesome. The second they put a little bit of money behind actually marketing their stuff correctly, they exploded. They got $1 million donations from this person. They got $1 million donation from this person. We just filmed a testimonial of a really famous baseball player who was like, yeah, my wife and I were watching news one day and we saw an ad for your organization and we're like, we got to get involved. And it's like the perfect promo for, like, you know, really telling. And then all they do is good storytelling. And it's told in a way that they know that their audience is going to resonate with. And clearly someone on the team took the time to ask the questions. Who are you? You know, how do you want to convey your story? Who's your demographic? You know, because, like, look, the same demographic for, you know, Pink, the Victoria's Secret brand, is not going to be advertising to you and me.
Yeah.
And they're not going to make content that we're going to love. and do like an unboxing video of like a camera, but also like, oh, look, and there's also underwear, you know, like you and I have different interests than their clientele. And so why wouldn't you take the time to talk about who your clientele is so that you can give a director, let's say you're the director and I'm hiring you to do a project for me. First of all, by knowing my brand and knowing our style and who we are, you might not be the right fit. And that's okay. It also, it awares the client to say, hey, that photographer that we've been using the last 8 years isn't really on brand. So maybe we should use someone else because our stuff's a little more moody and saturated, and the stuff they've been doing is really washed and like bright. And so like, yeah, they're not a right fit for us because this is who we are. You know, like you're not going to see Coca-Cola and all these other big brands doing things that are so off the cuff and so not Coca-Cola. They're going to do things that are Coca-Cola. And so my tagline, if I had to make one, something along the, I'm working on this already. This is coming to the press. There is something every brand should know. Itself.
I think that's perfect. It's the truth. Straight up.
You know, and that goes with realtor companies, that goes with restaurants, that goes with everyone. If you don't know yourself, how can you advise and pay for someone else to tell your story if you can't even give them a good description of who you are? Give me the elevator pitch. Who's your clientele? You know, it's like, and then if I am someone who's worth my salt as a filmmaker or a creative that's going to do some digging, chances are you're not going to pay me to do the digging. So it's like, you know, or get mad if I send you an invoice for like the 5 calls that we did prior to the shoot. I've had that happen where a company gave me no intel prior, and then we had to have like 3 or 4 calls before the shoot so I can get more info, pre-interview questions. And then when I sent them the invoice at the end, they were like, you charged me for 2 other days. I was like, yeah, because I worked those 2 days. And so my buddy Matt Novak, all coming back to Matt, he's a fantastic creative director. He's the one that really told me like, hey, you have to charge for your time with some of these clients, especially clients that have money. You know, it's like, we've talked about that before, like the get out of bed price. And like, you know, there's times where I'll come on shoots with, you know, some of these guys that I've mentored. They're like, you know, this one guy, Michael, who just got married the other day, you know, like he's an awesome dude. And the one time he had a project that had no budget, but it was an awesome project. And he's just like, could you come for this? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, cause it's just like, it's not about the money at that point. It was an opportunity to do a fun shoot and work with my boy. Like, but the right clients will not flinch. And that's to my point earlier. And I was talking about this with Michael and Julian actually, today, not Julian, Leo. Man, when you can stack in your hand, like the infinity gauntlet, right? Like right now it's like, I'm starting off and I got all crappy clients that are like, that's too much. That's too rich for my blood, etc. And you want to put clients on there that are like, sure, send us an invoice. You got it. Oh, you went overtime? No problem. Shoot, like you want to collect those. And when you have a handful of those, you don't have to make $1 over in any exorbitant amount because the money is going to come easy and you're going to like the work you're doing. You know, like they could all literally be like diabetes medicine companies, but if they value you and there's a relationship and they care, I'm picking like one obscure thing, but like, you know, like that's worth it, man. And you should build towards that. And that doesn't happen overnight. It's taken years to get to that point. I got about 3 clients that I could say, like I have the soul stone, the space stone, and I have the power stone. I still need the time stone and a couple other ones, but I'm working on it. And I know people out there that work with different companies out there that don't even bat an eye. They're like, cool. Like we've worked with my buddy Mike, and he's done some work for a company. I won't say the name, but like they got money. And there was one time we did a shoot with them, and I don't know what he charged them, but it's edit that out.
I got you. I got you.
Edit that out. Anyway, I got a buddy. We did a shoot with this big company, and you know, we did the interview, and then they came back and were like, hey, that person's just, you know, they didn't really have a good hair day that day, so we're going to redo the whole shoot. And they paid them again for it. So it's like,
that's sick.
You know, but like they didn't care because the company has money. But you know, when you're starting out, you're working, you're trying to do anything you can to get some money. And a lot of those clients also don't have the kind of money that some of these big companies have. So it's like, you kind of got to like help them see the value in what you're doing. There's a lot of time defending your rate, and it just gets exhausting. But the hope is that you're working towards a better future for yourself. And if you're 30 in your 30s and you're still working for clients that are literally skinning you alive, then maybe it's time to go into a different industry.
No, yeah, for sure. I think what was interesting that you brought up, while you were, talking, because like I said, I'm kind of just a wet sponge here, just like taking everything in. One question I got for you that I could definitely use some help on, and since you've watched so many movies, what makes a good storyteller?
What makes a good story or a good storyteller?
What makes a good story?
So I was just featured on Adorama Filmmaker Week. So Adorama, the company,
Yeah.
They basically had me shoot a original short, and they gave me a small budget, and they gave me an Arri Alexa Mini LF and these insane size Supreme Primes. Basically gave me like $500,000 worth of gear and like a bunch of like some resources and like make a short. And I had like a week to do it. And I was like, cool. And I literally said, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Because good stories matter. How many box office flops, how many multi-$100 million movies are out there that have the best gear, the best crew, literally the best crew, the best gear, the best DP, the best director that flop because the story sucked, or just didn't have heart, whatever it is. This guy I met, his name's Jason, who we did the project on. He's a pizza maker in Montclair. He owns a place called Brick and Dough. Shout out to Brick and Dough. You gotta go. That rhymed, unintentional. Anyway, so I met this dude, a couple years ago, and I got introduced through mutual friends, and I'm talking with him for like 20 minutes about pizza. And I'm like, he literally said like a few words, and I'm just like, oh man, if I ever have the time, I would like to do a video about this guy. He was talking about pizza being like art. I never heard anyone talk about pizza like that. He's like, it's the A and B, right? So like, he talks about pizza. That's the hook, right? Delicious pizza. But he's an artist, and he's talking about how he basically stretches out dough, and it's like a canvas, and he gets to be creative and put whatever he wants on it. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta make a thing about that. But I talked about in the behind the scenes feature, like how shows like Chef's Table. You ever seen Chef's Table?
I have not.
Chef's Table's on Netflix. It's phenomenal. It's about chefs, but it's about so much more. And so they use this tactic too, A and B, A story, B story, the hook, and then what the thing's really about. And so, have you ever seen the movie Interstellar?
Yes.
So Interstellar is a great example, right? You think you're going in to watch a movie about a space traveler. It's really a story about a relationship between a father and a daughter. And they use space travel as the hook to get you in and lock you in. But then what really makes your heart swell is the story about the relationship between the daughter and the father. And so knowing those dichotomies and telling the story in that way, it's such a beautiful way to tell stories and be layered to your approach and help things stick so much better. Like have you seen The Last Airbender?
Yes.
So, Aang and Zuko, it's really that. I mean, I would argue that storyline of The Last Airbender is potentially one of the best stories ever, because it's really about two people. It's not just about Aang. It's as much about Aang as it is about Zuko. And they pulled off something that I don't think I've ever seen in any cinema or any other avenue that quite did what they did and made you care about two characters as much as you did about those two. And that is great storytelling. It's being honest. It's being sincere. It's grabbing things from the real world and making people feel things, because I can't identify with something I can't identify with, right? Like, I can't feel something I can't identify with. I can't be hurt by something I haven't been hurt with. And it's grabbing for real human emotions. And if you're writing fiction, I tend to like nonfiction even more, because I think like the O.J. Simpson trial, Tanya Harding, like there's no shortage of like insane characters that are real. And when you're watching, you're going, this is better than anything I could dream up, because it's just, you're telling a story, but you don't really even have to tell it because it's happened. But in fiction, yeah, I mean, it's you're grasping things from the real world and bringing it into to a place where people can feel it and see it on the big screen. And it's like, that's the secret. It has to have things that are relatable to you and I. And even that, there's a target audience, but like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, Children of Men.
I have not.
Children of Men is a masterclass in filmmaking. It's fantastic with Clive Owen, Michael Caine, Julia Moore. And basically at the end of the world, women stop being able to have kids. So the population is just like slowly dying. Like the youngest people are like 20. It's like really sad. And it's like really depressing. And it's like, and they just encapsulate all those emotions in the film, the way it's shot, the sound design at times, the look is really bleak and kind of depressing. Like they use more than words to tell the story. And I think that's another big part. Have you seen Shaun of the Dead?
I have seen Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead, Edgar Wright's one of my favorite directors because he uses all of cinema to tell stories and be funny. There's not just vocals. There's not just dialogue. Dialogue is important, and some of my favorite scenes have dialogue in them. But like what you see, what the actor's feeling, the lighting, the sound design, like all of it matters immensely into creating a great story. And so if you look at the video that we shot, I'll send you a link for the pizza place, sounds, feelings, emotions, the fire roaring, like it's all those things that are making you go, ooh, I want to try that pizza. Ooh, I love it. Like the story is so good that I got to go to that place. Story's great. Pizza's great. I'm going. And in the same way, if you're just making an ad for a local pizza place, it's like, if I'm watching that as a person, I'm going, oh man, I got to go. Like there's a sound up where they cut the pizza and it's a little crunch. Mm-hmm. There's you put it in the thing and it scrapes the stove. The fire's roaring. It's like, oh, it's like you're there. It's like, so it's an obscure way of saying storytelling is all these things, but it's understanding human emotion. It's understanding what makes people excited, what makes people sad, what makes people feel things. And I think my favorite method is always having a hook to get people there. Like, take the podcast, for instance, right? Like, I'm not saying I'm some big guest, but I might be the hook for Michael Harrison, pretty much. I'm just kidding. And Leo. But in watching me, like my family might all watch this, right? But they also really like you as a host. And you brought some great things to the table, and you bring good things to the table. I really enjoy your commentating on things, your life experience. And so I'm going to keep watching your stuff. Even though I came from me, I found you in the process.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But that's the storytelling, right? It's like, I came for this, but I'm staying for this, and I'm going to stick around for this. I came for good pizza, but I got to know the guy that makes it. And now I really love going there. He knows me by first name. So we're boys, we're tight. And I'm going to keep going because I want to support that guy because he's a good dude. And the pizza's good. But he went there for the pizza originally. In this metaphorical story, the guy, the person. But yeah, that's storytelling.
I got you. Sean, we're coming pretty close to the end of the podcast. And I know. It's insane because it goes really quick. For me, this experience so far has felt like 20 minutes, and it's insane how fast it goes every time. But I do have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, let's hit them.
So the one question I had was, this whole project that I've been working on in June, called June in Jersey, and it's specifically shouting out a lot of a lot of Jersey creators, a lot of people who are from Jersey, who are proud to be from Jersey, and continue to make their living here. And what you find a lot in the music world is that there's not enough places for a lot of musicians to make it out here. So they move to Florida, California, all these other places that are known for. And, even though the city is a whole place to make it as well, like we were kind of saying before, you kind of start to lose the aspect of seeing of how great where we live is and all the things that are around and all the opportunities that could happen here. Why stay in Jersey? And especially with all the stuff that you do, with the success that you've seen, why not go to California and take it to the next level, let's say?
Because I'd lose who I am. It's like at the end of the day, I gotta be who I am. And look, I have aspirations to do episodic television. I have aspirations to do documentary series. I want to write a full-length documentary about Taylor Ham. Shout out to Taylor Ham. I own the domain for @TaylorHam on Instagram. Real talk. If you call it pork roll, you're also correct. But like, first of all, my wife would never want to leave New Jersey, and I love New Jersey too. I mean, culturally, we love New Jersey. You know, like it's that's part of it. My network's here, my work's here, my clients are here. I do a fair amount. I do a fair amount of traveling. Prior to the pandemic, I mean, I think the 2 weeks leading up to the pandemic, I was in LA 1 week shooting a project, and then I came home for like 3 days, and then I went back out to San Francisco for another project. That was like leading up to that was like February before the pandemic started. And I've traveled a bit since, but not as much as I used to. I was gone at least once a month. But I just don't think I'm really called to go anywhere else right now. And this is where I'm at. And look, if the right opportunity came down the road and I could direct an episodic, show, and we're going to be down in Atlanta for 3 months working on a show, cool. But I'd still have a place up here. I got family, I got friends. When you have a kid too and you get married, you want some stability. Obviously family members want to see us and want to see our child. There's a lot of reasons to stay, but New Jersey is just always a part of our heart. Like we love it, and we love the people here, and we love, the culture. And I think none of that's changing anytime soon.
Sweet. I think that was a great answer. Question number 2.
Yeah, let's hear it.
We talked a lot about being a good person, and a lot of different ways that we tend to describe that as someone I could have a beer with, or someone who I enjoys company. But if you were to give someone an advice who's completely clueless to that, how would you describe becoming someone who is amazing to work with over just like the material things that they have?
Attitude. Like, I told this to my boy Norman. Shout out Norman Rapinski, you're the man. Love you, bro. I can teach him the technical stuff. I can't teach you not to be a douche. I mean, real talk, right? Like, I can't teach you not to have an attitude. I can't teach you how to be selfish and greedy. Like, I can't teach you those things. You have to learn how to not be those things over time and trial. But like, the intangibles, they call them, right? Like they say this all the time in like professional sports. It's like, he was a freak athlete, and like no one taught him that, but maybe he can go work on his jump shot. Maybe he can go work on his free throws, like there are things that you can work on in the technical aspect of any industry, like no one shows up day one and is like killing it. And that's the funny thing. Like, there's this false dichotomy that film school gives to some of these young kids that come, and I can't tell you the amount of people that are like, oh, I'm a DP, oh, I'm a director, DP, director of photography, and a director, obviously a director, and it's like, oh, what have you directed? They're like, oh, my master project, my senior thesis project. And it's just like, cool, go get me coffee. I don't say that, but like, you could, because technically that's their job. They're a PA on set. And a lot of people don't want to put in the work and build connections and build relationships and earn trust, because quite frankly, when I'm dealing with, if I'm doing a $30,000 project for L'Oreal, I'm just throwing numbers and names out there, and I'm counting on a 23-year-old kid that doesn't have experience working with a full lighting team, doesn't have experience working with the gear we're using, and I have money riding on this project, I'm not hiring that person because I don't know him or her. I don't have trust. There's not trust established there. But like, what? Any of the really great people I know and would love to work with, Zach Trinka is a good friend of mine. He is one of the best DPs in the entire world. And if I needed to shoot a movie tomorrow, I would probably hire Zach. He's the man. But like, I'm sure Zach started off after college or during college on little shoots, and was a PA, was an AC, was, these are all these different terms for different positions that are not like the man. But like, Zach had interest. He gravitated towards camera, I'm sure. eventually started second shooting, got opportunities. People were, wow, you're really talented, earned trust. He improved his knowledge. And now Zach is awesome. He's the man. If I ever need anything that looks great, I hire Zach. That's another thing. Don't be afraid to pay good people to make your stuff look great. And Zach is one of the best. But what I'm trying to say is he didn't just come out that way. He learned the technical stuff. But Zach has a great attitude. He is a delight to be around. He is so level-headed. He's a film geek. He's a gear nerd. He's also like ripped. If you ever see him, he's like jacked out of his mind. But like, that's what I mean. It's like, he wasn't just born insanely talented, although I'm sure maybe he had some inherent talent, and I could be wrong, but I'm assuming he leaps and bounds, but you can't change his attitude. In the same way, I know people just as talented, maybe a little more talented than Zach, that I would never hire, because I've seen how they act on set. I've seen how they work with other teams and professionals, and it's like, no. Like some people I know in LA, that are really talented, have really great gear, but like people behind their back are just like, that guy's a psycho, or that, whatever. So it's like humility, being willing to put in the work, being willing to go through the paces. And I think I said it before, like, you need to be able to be of value to someone. And if you want to be where someone is, go find that person. Instead of complaining and saying, I'm never going to make money in photography, I'm never going to make money in video, find someone that you admire and give them a day. Before you know it, you become so integral to their system. They say, hey, how would you like to just come work with me? Hey, how would you like to, take some jobs for me? Hey, how would you like to be a partner? It's like, and then eventually, like every eagle, you get big and you can fly on your own. But like, to come out of the gate and just be like, well, I'm going to just go start demanding big money from clients. I'm going to start, doing big shoots because I have the vision and I want to do it and I'm talented enough. It's like, you got to be realistic, and it's okay to go slow. It's a long race. I'm not where I want to be. I would love to go work with people who are better than me. It's something I love doing because I know I have so much to grow in, and I'm growing every single day. And I have great mentors. All those guys I mentioned earlier in the podcast, they're all in my life still. They're all still available. And there are times when I lean on them and they still hire me on stuff, and it's great. But now I'm able to do it for guys like the guys we talked about, and it's awesome. And it's the best thing in the world. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
One more question.
Let's hear it.
As artists, as creatives, what a lot of people don't realize, no matter how much success you reach or the goals that you reach, you get to certain points where you start second guessing yourself. Mm-hmm. And there's no greater enemy to face than your mind. And when you look in the mirror, especially when that's the person bringing you down the most. If there was any time in your career, no matter at what age, where it was almost like the breaking point, where you felt like maybe this wasn't for you and you might have given up, what advice would you give to him if you could speak to him? And if you haven't had an experience like that, if someone had come to you with advice for that, what advice would you give to them?
I'm incredibly tenacious, and I don't take no for an answer when it comes to things that I know I can do, and I know I can do a lot of things. I don't like being bad at things. Like my wife asked me to like hang up stuff in the house, and I always like miss the stud and put holes in the wall, and like I get visibly frustrated, and I feel bad because it's like something I want to be good at, but I'm not good at it. But all joking aside, like excuse me. When I was in high school, I played rugby for a team in Montclair, and I lived in West Milford. And a lot of the guys that were on the team were all from West Milford. And we were like, we should start a team in West Milford because like half the team is from West Milford. And we're driving 45 minutes to Montclair. And everyone was like, yeah, but it'll never happen. And I'm like, I can do it. And they're like, no, not going to happen. And there are people like, no, you're never going to do it. And I did it. With a little help from some people, I did it. I was 19 years old and I started a rugby program in my town. It went on for like 10 years and ended after I met Jamie and my business had picked up and I couldn't do it anymore. And it's still going on. It actually moved to Warwick, New York, and it's still running and going well. But like as far as what it was in my town, it's not there anymore. And it was thriving. We had hundreds and hundreds of kids that had played. We won a state championship. Like, it was great. I played. My brothers played. It was great. But, like, something about the challenge of doing that kind of just spurred me on and say, like, yeah, I want to do this. And it may sound cliche or simple, but, like, knowing your why behind why you're doing what you're doing is everything. Like, why I succeed, I think, today is because what I plan to do with the quote unquote success. Like, if my intentions were for me to build this great big life for myself and live fancy and have a ton of money, like, I don't think I'd be as successful or be able to sleep with this, sleep, not in that sense, but like be able to sleep at night with knowing like I just got success for me, because I know I know what's been done for me. And that's my why behind why I succeed and why I try to succeed. Like, I would love to offer mentorship programs, like legit, and have kids, younger college kids work under me for a year and do like a mentorship and actually instruct them and bring them on projects. Like, I would love to like do more in this avenue. And again, I don't know everything, so it would be great to get also some other voices as well. But if you know your why and you know why you want to, like, if I just want to make money to make a Ferrari, then that's silly. And I don't think I should succeed. Maybe I can, maybe I should. I don't know. Depends, right? But like for me personally, I want to succeed so that I can help other people succeed. And I don't think there's as noble a cause as that out there. And so I think that's a big reason why I succeed, because I'm not just letting myself down if I fail. I'm letting down people who, like me, needed someone like me. And that is the motivation I get, because to this day, I'm still letting people use my cameras. If they have a project they want to do, a spec project to help them earn, notoriety and earn money. I'm still, giving people gear if I have gear that I don't need anymore. I'm still trying to do those little things. And eventually would I like to do a camera fund, more involved mentorship stuff? Sure. But like, I'm doing what I can now because I needed that when I was their age. And I think that's a reason why I succeed, because I know that, my wife and I both want to live a certain way, and we both want to make money. We both want to invest and have passive income and all these things, not so we can have the nicest house in the block, but so that we can have a house that is welcoming and affirming and loving towards people. There's food stock so people can feel comfortable to come to our home. Doors always open, snacks, drinks, whatever you want, place to do your laundry, place to chill, place to take a nap. Like, we want to foster that in our own lives. We want to be generous with what we've been given because we believe we have been given it and it's not ours to begin with. And so that's my why behind why I do what I do. That's my why behind why I want to succeed. Because God's given me so much, man, and I have to be able to give it back. And if you do that, like, last thing I'll say, it's like, it's that idea of the person with the messy room that's like going out and, saying the loudest, and every time there's been a tragedy or a thing, they're at town square, rah, rah, I'm going to change the world. Maybe something happened 3,000 miles away from them and they're getting up in arms because, 24-hour news cycle tells them they should be. But there are 3,000, there's one problem 3,000 miles away that they're hyper-focused on, but there's 3,000 problems 1 mile away that they could worry about, and they actually might have an impact to fix. One of those would be clean your room, right? Another one of those might be get your career in order, start doing online classes, start doing, different things, find a mentor. Like, there are things you could actually do, but there's the thing that you procrastinate and put up on an altar and say, this is the thing I need to change. This is the thing I need to be about. And it's like, my wife and I can't end world hunger. My wife and I can't put a camera in every single kid's hands, but there might be 5 people we can really impact. And those 5 people might impact 5 people. And it's that idea of that ripple effect. And I know it's cliche, and I know it's, you know, there's like a movie about it with the kid from I See Dead People, but it's so true, man. Like I have a capacity to impact people. Maybe 2, maybe 3. I don't know. I don't know what my ceiling is yet. I have a kid now, so it's a little more difficult. I want to impact him. I love him, and I want to be there for him. I hope he's like a plumber or something. Just not even in the industry. I hope he just does something completely different. But like, I might be able to make a difference in 2 people's lives. And if those 2 people go make an impact in one person's life, there's no telling, man. And that ripples and ripples. And it's like, I can't solve the problems 3,000 miles away, but I can solve a few of them right here. And I think if people were to take that kind of ownership in their lives, understand their why, understand their motivation, the world would be a different place.
Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. I don't believe this will be the last time we'll be podcasting together. You're always going to be welcome on my show. Always welcome to the studio. But since it is the end of the podcast, please let the people know where they could find you, follows, any last shout outs you want to do. Now is the time.
Shout out Southside. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, you know, shout out to all the people in my life, my parents, my family, my wife, all the different mentors and awesome dudes that were there for me when I needed people in my life. It made a world of difference, and what you did mattered. I am on Instagram at Sean Conlon _ because at Sean Conlon was owned by some guy named Sean Conlon also. Website, ferrumcreative.com. And be on the lookout. We're going to be putting out some new stuff soon. I'm hoping by this fall we'll be able to start soft launching things, and hopefully by like 2023, I had to think about that for a second, we're going to be full tilt and really pushing a bunch of new work and doing cool stuff. But I would love to come back, man. We could talk about a litany of things. Be great. We'll keep in touch.
Of course. Guys, all of this information is going to be in the links in the bios. Also, if you're listening on Buzzsprout, all of those links will be there as well. Spotify, Apple Music. But guys, y'all already know the business. Ayoo Show Podcast on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, anywhere you could find your podcasts. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of places that I don't even know my podcast is on, that Apple Music, you know, they have a monopoly. They own like everything. So we'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. But guys, that's the whole podcast. And Sean, let's get out of here.
Let's go.
Awesome, dude. Wow, thank you so much, man. Oh my heart, dude. you know better than that. Awesome,
dude.
Man.
I've done it.